if you have messaged me asking me to test your boyfriend and you start that paragraph with he's already cheated on me twice, but I forgave him and want to see if he'll do it again, no. No, because he will. So no. Stop. Leave that man. Put him in the bin. The recycling bin.
Great plan.
Thank you.
He likes your plan, Chief.
You know, I gotta hand it to you, sister. Your demand to be ecologically friendly by telling women to throw their cheating exes into a recycling bin instead of a dumpster is somewhat admirable. But why the recycling bin? Are you hoping to send him to a manufacturing facility where he's broken down and rebuilt into something a little more useful? I honestly don't see how that's possible. You see, a man like that cannot be reused. He is the ultimate user. He is the one who's making the decisions. So it's really not a good metaphor. In fact, I really don't think any of the bin metaphors work here. Throwing him in the trash bin doesn't work because this is a man who clearly has some value in this woman's eyes because she's taking him back constantly. And for obvious legal reasons, you can't throw him in the compost bin either. So I guess I really don't see the trash metaphor working here, sister. The only way it works is if you're throwing loyalty tests in the trash. But that would involve doing away with an essential linchpin in the simp industrial complex. We all know that's never going to happen. So I guess the best thing you can do is just accept that Chad's gonna Chad and move on with your life. Just be sure to recycle. You're already wasting enough as it is.
Indeed! This is for all my single friends over 50. Why do you think it's so difficult to find companionship at our age? It's tough. I didn't think it was going to be this difficult to ever find someone just to share the simple pleasures of life. But man, it's crazy out there.
I feel shocked.
Lady, the reason why it's so difficult for you to find companionship is because you're expecting too much from a well that dried up for you about 20 years ago. It's hard to find companionship because the men you want simply are not interested in you. It's a two-way street. You like to think that you're a catch, but if you were, then you wouldn't be single in your 50s. You would be locked down with a good man. Now, there are obviously exceptions. There always will be, but if you're expecting a man your age to want you, then you need to be bringing a little bit more to the table than some leathery skin. And that's even if the men you're interested in are even looking for anything at all. It's crap like this that have made men give up on dating entirely. Just look at the prospects out there. We got entitled broads who openly hate 95% of the male population. We got depressed women in their 50s who have virtually nothing to offer. Or we have westernized chicks who think voting Democrat counts as a personality trait. With that kind of quality merchandise on the table, can you really blame men for not wanting to be your, companion?
Whether you use a dating app, I know meeting someone through another friend, that doesn't always end up too good when it doesn't work out. I don't know. Maybe we've got to figure this code out. Are we wanting too much? Are we expecting too much? I know that I'm not. I mean, at this time in our lives, most of us have our own dwellings, jobs. Obviously, we're supporting ourselves. We took all the filling out of the pie.
Congratulations!
You know, I have a question. Who told you that men wanted women who have jobs and own property? I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to give me $20 to leave you alone, feel free. I could always use the intergalactic space cab fare, but men aren't interested in women like that. Typically, becoming a boss bae yas queen usually involves sacrificing the very things that made you attractive in the first place. You sacrifice your femininity, your modesty, and your dignity. You can't even go a day without posting some sob story on TikTok about how unfair your life is because men aren't willing to put up with your nonsense. Just take a look at you right now. You're recording yourself as a passenger in the back of a minivan, which means that a friend is driving you around and you're forcing them to listen to you complain, or you're in the back of an Uber and you're forcing a random stranger to listen to you complain. Now switch that out for a dude who's actively in a relationship with you. Not only must he chauffeur you around town, But he also has to put up with your rampant complaining whenever something doesn't go your way, and I'm fairly certain that being stuck in a minivan with a modern woman is punishment for petty larceny in some sectors. But those are most likely the only sectors that don't recognize war crime tribunals.
So it should just be fun, companionship, laughter, and yet it's stupid how difficult it is. So if you break the code and you want to share it with me, I'd love to know what it is. Time is ticking.
Now, idiots! It's simple!
Well, the solution to your problem is fairly obvious, lady. You need a time machine, and I pray to the intergalactic space god Mumblefarm, all hail, that you never find one. I don't think this space-time continuum would be able to handle the massive changes that a single modern woman would make in a given day. I mean, she could go back and make so many changes that it would probably undo half of all existence. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd probably do my fair share of damage as well, but going back in time to 1986 to tell Anthony Michael Hall to hang tough isn't exactly the same thing as her going back in time to give her younger self advice on how to sneak backstage into a Rico Suave concert. The amount of damage a modern woman could do with a time machine would be so chaotic that I'm fairly certain it would cause all of reality to constantly fade in and out of existence to the point where the fabric of reality itself would collapse. And not even the Jean-Claude Van Damme time cop and his unlimited amount of split kicks could ever fix that kind of damage.
I don't want to fight a woman.
Then don't.
Change my mind.
I don't want to be a bitch because I like men, and I've been in relationships and I've had good times, and I like having a partner, and I love to flirt, and I love romance, and I will not let this part of me die. And I don't want to be a bitch, but we have an issue with men right now because there are a lot of men who are not meeting like basic standards in order to be in a relationship. And like this girl says, she's like, I'm not willing to be treated poorly just to be in a relationship and have kids. It's not that women don't want to be in a relationship or don't want to have children. It's that the men aren't good enough right now. I don't want to be a bitch.
Speak for yourself, moron.
Oh my god, that is funny!
Well, you gotta trust me, sister. There are plenty of quality men out there. You just refuse to acknowledge our existence because it completely dismantles your victim mentality if you did. But by ignoring us, you're really doing us a favor because it gives us more time to hang out over at Skeeter's house. So get this, we finally figured out a use for about the half dozen tuk-tuks that Skeeter had in his garage, right? We were going to convert them into mobile tactical deployment units for our Milsim Nerf Blaster sessions, but we already had some retrofitted panel vans for that, so we came up with the next best thing. 3 words for you, sister. Tuck, tuck, polo. Who needs to deal with a judgmental chick when you could drive around in a motorcycle pickup truck hybrid and playing a game that would have been played by medieval landowners if they had access to internal combustion engines? It's adrenaline pumping, allows men to rock out to Steppenwolf without naysayers, plus it satisfies our natural desire to want to hit things with a stick. Now, we do have a very strict no skirts policy, but you have to understand it's purely for safety reasons. We can't trust you with a bottle of water, so what makes you think that we could trust you behind the wheel of a tuk-tuk? There's just no way, so sorry, but not sorry.
Hell yeah!
If you think your ex is going to forget about you because you've decided to enter into no contact, you decided to no longer chase them and pursue them or beg for them back, you just need to stop. Babe, just stop and think about what you've just said. First of all, the reality of that actually happening is so unlikely. The only way any person is going to forget about you, a significant other that has been in their life and had an emotional connection with them, is if that said individual ends up in a very traumatic incident where they have had some brain damage that has resulted in amnesia. And that's just a psychological fact. Let me just remind you how often you may be thinking about your ex. You could just be walking down the street and then they just pop into your mind. But does your ex know in that moment that you've been thinking about them? No, because not every single thought follows through with an action. So how could you possibly know how frequently or infrequently your ex has been thinking about you? And if they're thinking about you, it means they've not forgotten you.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
I'm impressed, woman. You've already lost me here. If you're the one breaking up with the guy and you're the one who's initiating no contact, then why should you be concerned with whether or not this guy's thinking about you? Even if he is, who in the hell cares? Just move on with your life. Of course people think about their exes, that's not the issue here. But as time goes on, that particular ex moves further and further into the back of the individual's mind as they move on. Sure, memories creep in from time to time, but that's just life. It's not some kind of special cosmic moment. It's just the human mind remembering stuff that happened. It's not special, it's just how the brain works. So I guess I'm failing to see where this impassioned speech is going. It's not that he forgets about you, it's that he thinks about you less and less. And if you broke up with him and initiated no contact, then it's probably better that way, right?
And it is just not that possible for your brain to forget something. We are creatures of habit. We have routines and patterns, and our brains absolutely love them. It's the very same reason why you now, in this breakup, are feeling tortured over the memories and the past, because of your routines. Your routines remind you of what is no longer there. Change is scary for our brains because it breaks the routine. And just like your routine has changed now that they have left, so has theirs. And even if they did somehow manage to forget about you, I guarantee you now that is just a really good mask, a great cover-up, a suppression of those feelings. They're hiding it extremely well, and unfortunately you're falling for it.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
Hang on, falling for what? Again, you broke up with the man and you initiated no contact. So his feelings and memories of you should be immaterial. But if you want this guy to constantly be thinking of you, then it's sounding more and more like this breakup was done for nefarious reasons. And it almost sounds like you want to haunt this guy from beyond the confines of the original relationship. You are the one who broke up with him. You are the one who made that decision. So it should be the same thing whether or not he's thinking about you. But you're so self-centered with this delusion that you need this man to constantly be thinking about you, despite his clear lack of an obligation to do so, which you established, by the way. If you break up with the guy, then you are no longer allowed to have your claws sunk into him. He's gone his own way, and if he thinks about you 100 times per day, or none at all, it's the same thing. That is his business, and none of yours, sister.
The reality is they're not going to forget about you. They will think about you in their own way. But if it ever seems like your ex has completely detached, seems like they're moving on, and that they're not showing you outwardly any signs of missing you, and you fear that that is happening, that tells you everything you need to know about this person. It means that not only did they not value you whilst you were with them because they had to leave the relationship, but even in your absence, reflecting on that, they still can't see you for how amazing you are. If a person can forget about you, they are not worth having in your life. You shouldn't have to be like a dancing monkey right in front of a person for them to be able to actually acknowledge your existence. And if you have to be, then they are not worth your time, energy, or emotions. And even though you can't see it right now, that would mean it's an absolute blessing in disguise. So don't ever worry about if I don't talk to somebody for 30 days, they're gonna forget about me. If they should, they are so not worth you.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Well, isn't this rich? You are sitting there and honestly trying to tell me with a straight face that if you break up with the man, he is required from now until the end of time to be forever showing signs of missing you and wanting to get back together? And he's not allowed to move on with his life after you break things off? How does that work exactly? If you truly were that special of a snowflake, flower, fairy, princess, CEO, then it would stand to reason that man would agree and would do everything he could to make things work. But you're clearly not, and he clearly didn't. So if the two of you broke up and he decides to go into another relationship, he has absolutely no reason to take your feelings into account. Because if the roles were reversed and you dove into a relationship after completely disregarding his feelings, it's okay because you needed to find your most true and authentic self, and you couldn't do that with a raging narcissist who was also coincidentally broke. You see the problem here? Well, of course you don't. You're too busy obsessing over whether or not your ex is obsessing over you. But I can assure you, sister, he isn't. There's nothing worth obsessing over. And that is going to do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and make sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, guys, and until next time, peace out, homies.